Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and with me, as always, is Chip Januszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Great. How you doing, Eric?
Doing fantastic.
I'm going out to get my turkey right after we get off the phone. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yes, as we're getting ready for the Thanksgiving holiday, and always a reminder that you need to be grateful for what you have. And today we're going to talk a little bit about keeping what you have under control. And we're going to do this by talking about business software and business processes that you can adapt to your home life to make things easier. When you think about it, we have a lot of the same responsibilities at home that we do at work. And yet we don't use these tools. We tend not to make processes at home. And yet doing so can make your life so much easier.
Absolutely. And it can, obviously it can sync what you do between work and family a whole lot easier too. I mean, one of the first things that I think about that we've talked about many, many times is time management. And that calendar that you put together for work should also include everything that you're doing at home and for personal development work. And, we're going to be talking about different things that way. But managing your time for home and work in a calendar is a very, very good place to start.
All right, the calendar is one of the simplest tools we have. We've all got it on our phone, computer. I'm sure somebody sends you one at the beginning of every year, whether it's a bank or we actually get one from the Chinese restaurant. We all have calendars, but using them to schedule our time is so valuable. And yet we tend not to do it for home. And it doesn't have to be just for major things. Yes, most people put on the calendar, you know, hockey practice and ballet class and places you have to be. But we also have these things that we have to get done that we tend to leave off the calendar. Taking out the garbage. You know, generally trash day comes once or twice a week, depending on your pickup schedule. You've got to drag the trash cans out to the curb so they can be picked up. How many of us forget about this until 10 o'clock the night before and suddenly go, oh, I've got to take the garbage out?
Or until you hear the truck going by the next morning.
Right.
Yeah, and it's in the calendar too. I mean, one of the things about business, obviously the business is a financial entity, so you're going to be doing your budgeting, you're going to be making deposits, you're going to be making receivables calls, balancing your checkbook and so on and so forth. But a lot of people at home don't look at their finances, and so they fall behind in different things like payments and credit card payments and so on and so forth. And just by having software like Quicken instead of QuickBooks and other things where you can manage automatic payments, and I mean, obviously this is a lot of stuff that you can do online, but just having a quick calendar of when different payments are due during the month so that you can track that, and making sure that you do your bank reconciliations every month in your checkbook is so important to keep the finances going for families, because a lot of families have trouble with that.
Absolutely. I mean, at the bare minimum, put when bills are due on your calendar. Or better still, don't put when they're due, put a week before they're due that you need to pay the bill. If you do want to get, more in depth, you can use Quicken for personal finances. Or if you really want to get in depth, you can use QuickBooks the same way you would for your business. Use it for your personal life so you can manage your savings, your checking, your investment accounts. And then anytime you want, you can pull up the software and get an overview of what you have.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful, and all you need to do to set it up is to set up your accounts and to just make sure you're entering things as they come in, and then doing your reconciliations. and the whole thing's going to work for you. And just as you said, you can dial up all different types of reports for a lot of different things by doing that. But the most important thing is to set up a system to do things and to track your finances.
Right. And most of us think of our finances in terms of accounts. But using something like QuickBooks, probably Quicken too, I'm less familiar with Quicken, you can actually set things up where, yes, you've got the balances for your actual bank accounts or your investment accounts, but you can put together virtual accounts that you are reserving money for. So you can track how much money you've got saved up for your vacation, how much money you've got saved up for college. And these don't necessarily have to be physical separate accounts. You can just have this all tracked in the software. So oh, we wanted to go on this trip, but we're falling short. We've got to save a little extra money. Or hey, we saved more money than we thought we did. We could have even better a vacation. So by tracking these things, it keeps you up to date. Unfortunately, so many people have such a fear of their finances that they sort of think, well, if I don't look at it, it can't be bad.
Yeah, as long as the check's not coming back bounced. But
right.
It's some, I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about bill paying and so on and so forth. And it could be just as simple as having a little tickler file, or even what my mom, who's 87 years old, does. She has a big gold paper clip where you just have all the things sitting there that are coming up within the next couple of weeks with dates on it. And whatever system you have, if you have that right in front of you and you're looking at that, she every day, every Wednesday of the week, she looks at her bills. I'm checking on her now because she's older and so on and so forth. And we just had a little thing with her. So I tried to get more on top of things, but she's got a pretty good system going. And whatever works for you, if it's a manual thing where you have to have the envelopes with the bills in them right in front of you, that's great. We talked about having tickler files where you actually set up a folder system for every day of the month and then every month of the year. And you can stick things in there so if they just pop up in front of you. But regardless, come up with a system that works for you. And you can not only do this for your bills, but if you are making those deposits towards your vacation account, or you're doing this, or you're doing that, you can put all of your things that you need to do for your personal life in there. So with me being a home business, I have a combination of both in mine.
All right. A tickler file actually works really well for something like this because assuming you're still getting paper bills mailed to you, when they come in, you put it in the correct tickler file for the day you have to pay it. And then when that comes up that day, there it is. There's your reminder. Take care of it.
Yeah, another good thing that you can use if you're into spreadsheets is you can list what your normal monthly expenses are on a spreadsheet and the day of the month that they have to be paid. So you have that at your fingertips anytime you want also, and you can do some planning. I mean, you may even want to print that out and have that in front of you so you know when to plan for things ahead of time. But again, I mean, the big message is come up with some type of a system to make sure that you are paying things on time and budgeting properly to do that.
Right. Most spreadsheet programs actually have templates that will help you put together a home budget. And that's something so many people fail to do. Their paycheck comes in, they buy whatever they need, they're living paycheck to paycheck. But if you actually track what you're spending and budget, you have a much better chance of getting out of that living paycheck to paycheck situation. Because there's always something you can see, even if it's just, oh my God, look how much my cable bill is eating up. A couple of years ago, we took a look at our home finances, and we realized we were paying like $180 a month, essentially for 6 channels that we actually watched. We had tons more and all the stuff that came with this package, but we really only watched about 6 channels. So we canceled our television, got ourselves a Roku box, got a couple of subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, Sling. Now we've still got all of the channels we used to watch. Plus, we've got movies and things from Netflix and Hulu and things like that. And we're paying over $100 less a month.
Yeah, I
So,
just did the same thing with Roku. One of the nice things about Roku, I mean, if you have a Consumer Reports account, that's a good place to go in and look at things. But Roku ranked very, very highly. And the neat thing about that is all you do is you put up anywhere from like $30 to $90 for a controller, and the rest of it's free. You sign up for, I have YouTube TV, which costs me $40 a month as opposed to what DirecTV used to cost me, which would have been going up to about 140, 150 a month very, very quickly. And there's a lot of different things to do that as far as your options there. But by tracking this and having it on paper, especially on a spreadsheet or whatever, you'll be able to see the trends where if something is X this month and it goes up substantially next month, or if it's going up incrementally and you have that in front of you, you're going to see these different patterns. And then you can start budgeting accordingly and making decisions like you did a couple of years ago to correct things and make things more applicable to what you're really, really doing and paying for what you're really, really doing instead of all the bells and whistles that you don't use.
right. And budgeting is becoming more and more important because so many of us now have services on automatic bill pay where the money just goes right from your account, it pays the bill, you don't have to think about it. But when you don't think about it, you also don't realize how much you're spending on things. So it's really important to, whether it's a spreadsheet or Quicken or QuickBooks, to get a handle on your household finances. What are you spending? And are you spending intelligently?
And it
Very
is
often,
important if you're using credit cards to pay for things, it's very, very important for you to look at the monthly statements coming in. Number one, for accuracy, to make sure that there's nothing on there that doesn't belong there, but to take a look at the trends. And if some of these cards, they'll actually track that for you and give you pie charts and so on and so forth, broken out by the type of expenditure they think you're making. But uh, these automatic things, which are more and more and more, because if we're talking about business side of things, the more people you have automatically paying you every month, whether they're doing anything or not, is great for your own business, but it's not for the consumer.
right. And it's very important that you watch these things because mistakes happen. And if you don't catch them, you could be paying hundreds of dollars a month that you shouldn't be paying. So you really do need to watch these things. And the other thing that, when you're watching your budget and you start understanding how you're spending money, is that it becomes much easier to save money. And sometimes it's just a tiny step. We cut our food bill by quite a lot because what we would do is, we'd run over to the local supermarket, pick up what we needed, bring it home. Well, we started looking at what we were spending and we realized if we went one town over to a different store, we could save a lot of money on the exact same items. So we're not losing anything. We're still getting the same things we always did, but we're paying less for them. And you need to watch things like that.
Yep, just like you would in the business world. The services go up there too, and that's a really, really good tip to take from that. And speaking of the business world, we talk a lot about business planning and strategic planning for businesses, and we also talk a lot about personal strategic planning for our own lives. And family planning is a big part of that. I mean, if you do have a spouse and children, it's really, really important, and it's a great exercise too to bring you together, to just sit down and kind of go over what the priorities are in your life, the things that you like to do, and start planning these things out. And just like you would in business, start developing a timetable for when you want to do things, put together your SMART goals for achieving things, and work together on that. celebrate when you're accomplishing different things. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about a little bit is planning for vacations and so on and so forth. And it's always so cool to be looking forward to your next one, even if it's a year away. But to have it planned really gives you something to look forward to. And that's a big part of life rather than just going through the motions day to day, hoping you'll have enough next month to start talking about it. So, family planning is a huge part. And the more you get involved with your whole family and your children, it's going to get them into better habits as they move ahead, both for finances and for family life, also. I mean, it's a great part of parenting to do that.
Absolutely. And, we've been using as an example saving for a vacation. But let's face it, most families save up for other things as well. You're driving an older car, it's starting to cost a lot in repairs. You're going to have to replace that at some point. It's better to plan for that and start saving up for that, because the bigger down payment you can put on a car, the less the cost is overall, because you're chopping those interest payments. So you can still be buying the same car, but with a little planning, you're paying less for it. And let's face it, who doesn't want to pay less for the things we need? We all know that money could be doing something, more enjoyable, better. You could be investing it so it makes more money. But unless you actually track your costs the same way you would as a business owner, none of that's going to happen, because you're just paying what needs to be paid and you're not planning for it.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the book we discussed a couple months ago, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, just coming up with that template where you pay yourself first and you leverage your business where it's going to be paying you off as a business rather than going paycheck to paycheck. That's all part of this personal strategic planning thing in your family planning. And if you can explain this to your children when they're old enough to start understanding this stuff, children are really, really fascinating creatures, and they come up with some great ideas that we think that we might have had as adults. But I know you go through this too. They dumbfound you with the different things that they come up with, and they do come up with things that we wouldn't even be thinking about. So getting them engaged and congratulating them on coming up with these ideas and so on and so forth, again, is so great for family relations, as you're parenting them into high school, college, and so on and so forth. It keeps relationships better, and it would probably keep the fights down to a minimum, because you are appreciating them periodically for what they're doing that way instead of just correcting them.
Absolutely. The family that plays together stays together. The more you can do as a family, the better your relationships will be.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about personal development exercises too for business, as far as working on yourself. And if you can start doing those exercises with your children, also getting them into personal development, maybe reading the same book together to talk about different things, or working on a project together, that goes such a long way too in keeping you stimulated, but also just keeping the family relationships really, really good. So personal development, it works obviously in business when you're working on your skills that way, but your personal skills that we talk about in business books, such as the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and How to Win Friends and Influence People, they all pertain equally or even more to your personal life. And if you can teach your children those principles, it goes a long way.
Right. And in fact, you mentioned the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's an entire series of those books: the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Groups. It applies to everybody. So whether you have a teenager or grown child, even if they're below teenage, if they're preteen, get them involved in this. Now, something else that very common in the business world, but very few people use in their day-to-day life, is project management software. Project management software in businesses are for large projects to help you keep track of all of the moving parts. Well, guess what? We have projects like that in the house too. Cleaning out the garage. Maybe you're fixing the plumbing in a bathroom. Project management software allows you to keep track of all of the parts that you need. So certainly when you're doing something like home improvement, like, oh, I'll need these supplies, I'll need these tools. It gets you organized. And then again, let's face it, with really big projects, most of us only have time to do it on a weekend. Well, guess what? Saturday rolls around. Do you remember exactly where you left off the previous week? Take a look at the software, take a look at your project management plan, and it tells you, okay, this is where I was, this is what I need to do this week. And you can actually break it down into a week by week plan so that each week you make a little progress. The garage gets cleaned out, home improvement projects get done, and it's something else you can also do as a family, because if you've got kids, get them involved in the home improvement projects, even if it's just handing you tools. I found younger kids love this because they get that feeling that they're involved, they feel grown up. So by using project management tools, you can take those home projects, those things you keep meaning to do and don't quite get to, or as so many people have a honey-do list. You can use this software to help plan it out and get all those tasks done.
Yeah, and another takeaway from the business world that works so well in personal life, in fact, you're using it all the time, is the power of relationships. Now, we talk about networking for resources and so on in business as far as vendors and customers and so on and so forth. And you just talked about those projects that have to be done. And I don't think there's anybody out there who's a super handyman that could get every single home improvement project done themselves. But they know people out there who they buy stuff from who do that, but they also probably have a neighbor that's very handy that does stuff. And the bottom line is the more that you ask people about the things that they do well and ask them for advice, they're going to want to help you out a whole lot. And number two, it's going to make them feel really, really good about the relationships that you have with each other. So, just like in the business world, if you are complimenting your employees and sharing each other's strengths and working on that, if you do that in your personal life with the people in your life, your friends and your family, and so on, and identify those people as resources and are working together that way, it makes life a whole lot easier and a whole lot more fulfilling for everybody involved. It's just human nature.
All right. And you actually see this more and more on Facebook, where people are leveraging their personal networks for recommendations. I'm looking for a plumber that serves my area. Does anybody have a suggestion for a restaurant? I'm taking my wife out for date night. Having a personal network that you can reach out to for recommendations is very powerful, because none of us knows everything or everybody who's around us. So by using those personal networks, you can find more opportunities, more things to do than you can on your own. You can find the handyman you need. You can find that great place to hold your kid's birthday party. You can find a great restaurant to take your spouse to for date night. All of these things, we don't think of them in the same way we do business tasks, but the process is really the same. So
Yeah,
why not take advantage of the same ideas?
yeah, it comes down to human nature. The bottom line is whether it's in business or in personal life, everybody likes to be validated. If you have an idea and somebody else says, "Yeah, that's a great idea," or "Yeah, this is what I like to do," if you want to go out to dinner and so on and so forth, and you get recommendations, the world revolves around that, and people love helping people out when asked about that. And yeah, the Facebook is a great example of what's going on because you do see that all the time. But people love getting recommendations from other people to be validated, whether it's you're buying a car or a television or a cable service. If you talk to other people about that, you're going to feel good if you feel like you're on the right track and so on and so forth. And if they correct you, they're helping you out that way too. So relationships, they're universal and it transcends business and life. relationships are relationships, and everybody needs them. So you just leverage them and have a ball doing so. That's what life is all about.
Absolutely. Talk about what's going on with your personal network. You'll be amazed at how many people are doing the same things that you've done. We mentioned cutting the cord earlier, switching from cable or satellite to a Roku box. I see this happening all the time, and people will say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm looking into Apple TV, Roku box," and I'll be able to say, "Oh yes, we switched a couple of years ago. It's been fantastic," and that helps them, make the decision. Yes, I'm going to go through with this because now I know other people who have done it and they've been having a great experience. So by sharing those experiences,
Yeah,
it validates decisions you're making and gets you more information to make better decisions.
yeah, and when you're dealing with something like, television and so on and so forth, where, we had the bunny ears and now we have to figure out what the heck streaming is versus this and that, whatever. When we were looking to switch from DirecTV, I talked to my son's friend, a millennial, who was really, really good at all this kind of stuff and got all of his input about Roku and streaming and how to do this and how to do that. And it was amazing because it's something that I'd heard about for the last couple of years, the Amazon Sticks and all that other kind of stuff. And until I talked to him, I really didn't understand how it works. I mean, a lot of people do, but some people just aren't as technically savvy like me uh, to handle these things. And I love doing this stuff right now. And one of the cool things I found out about YouTube TV, those of you who like the DVR stuff on DirecTV and Comcast and whatever, YouTube is YouTube. And what YouTube is just a whole file of everything that's out there video wise. And so with YouTube TV, you can type in something like New England Patriots, Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, or stocks and bonds, this and that, and whatever. And once you have that in there as a topic, YouTube will automatically take that for you and it's available for you for the whole next year. And then it'll automatically delete. And you don't have to delete anything or worry about it. It is so convenient. It's amazing because that's the way that YouTube is set up. So there's all kinds of different things out there that you don't even realize until you try it. And there's a lot of people out there that you can think of that understand things a whole lot better than you do to ask.
Absolutely. Let people know and build those personal networks. And it's not difficult to build personal networks because we're around people all the time. Talk to the people you work with. Get to know them. When you're going to your kid's little league game or dance recital, don't just stand there staring at what your kid is doing. Talk to the parents around you. You automatically have at least one thing in common because your kids are all involved in that activity. So use these opportunities to build your networks, build friendships, build relationships. So we're coming up on the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway that people should have this week?
Now, to me, it gets back to the personal strategic planning. I mean, strategic planning is a part of business. It should be a part of your life for every different facet of your life. So, you looking at your finances, activities, projects, and so on and so forth. The more you have them organized, the better off you're going to be. And it's so, so important to leverage all the relationships that you have in your life, starting out with your own family and then going right through to friends and relatives and that kind of thing too. So it's putting together a personal strategic plan and letting the whole lovely world around you help you out in achieving it.
Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is there are all of these tools to make your life easier. Take advantage of them. They may be labeled as business tools, but they can easily apply to our day to day lives. And so many of these things are free on your smartphone or free on your tablet. Why not take advantage of these tools to make your life easier? Because let's face it, the less time you have to spend worrying about your finances, remembering what chores you have to do. If you can use tools to make all of that run easier, it gives you that much more time to enjoy your life. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us on the iTunes Store, Apple Podcasts app, iHeartRadio app, Spotify, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.